ग्लोबल स्किल डेवलपमेंट मिशन में आपका स्वागत है।
Lots of goodies to show you in this exercise. Creating new layers, working with selections and selecting layers, deleting layers, lots of good stuff. So let's jump into it. So what I want to do right off the bat is I want to go and create a new layer. Now note that I have the bottommost, let's say, layer selected inside the layers panel for myself, clouds. Okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my cursor down to this icon here at the bottom of the layers panel, create a new layer. Looks like a little page icon. Go ahead and click on that guy. That creates a brand new blank layer for us. Think of a clear sheet of acetate in our overhead projector example. So there is now a clear piece of plastic between clouds and statue, if you will. Okay? But of course, what I want to do is I want to take this layer and I want to move him above the statue layer. We already know how to do that. I'm just going to click and drag layer 1 above the statue layer. Okay? So, point being, when we go and create a new layer, it's created above the previously selected layer. Okay? I'm going to go and rename this layer. Rather than layer 1, I want to give it a much more meaningful name, so I'll remember 6 months from now what the heck this layer is for. I'm just going to call this stripe. Okay? And as the name would imply, what I want to do is I want to create a stripe inside my composition here. So to do this, and this is where we start getting into some more of the tricks where we start to combine multiple tools and commands together, what I'm going to do is I'm going to head back to my rectangular selection tool, and with the stripe layer selected inside the layers panel, and this is noteworthy here, whenever we're working inside our composition, double check your layers panel. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to do something and realized that I've had the wrong layer selected inside the layers panel. So make sure you have the correct layer selected inside the layers panel. What I'm going to do with my rectangular selection tool is I'm just going to drag out a selection inside my image, something like that. Okay, it doesn't have to be very precise. Now, what I want to do with this guy is I want to fill him with a solid color. I want to fill him with solid white. Double check that white is still set as your background color at the bottom of your toolbox. Tap your D key if it's a different color. And then check this out. This is another really great keyboard shortcut for us. Try holding down Command if you're on the Mac or Control on the Windows side and press your Delete key. And what that will do is that will fill your selection with the current background color. How do you like that? Awesome stuff. Okay, we can go and deselect our selection here that we have here, Controller Command D on your keyboard. I'm also going to tap my V key on my keyboard to switch me back to the Move tool. A couple of things that I want to mention here just while I think of it. When we want to go and select the pixels inside of a layer, so of course I'm still on my stripe layer inside the layers panel. What I could do is I could use Controller Command A on my keyboard. What that does is that makes a selection that encloses not the entire image, this is an important distinction to make here, but all of the pixels, all of the available space on the current layer, okay, on the currently selected layer. So I have everything selected here using Controller Command A. If I press my Delete key on my keyboard, only the pixels on the selected layer get deleted, okay? Important distinction to make, as I say. I'm just going to undo that, Controller Command Z on my keyboard. Now, what if I wanted to select only the pixels on this layer, not the rest of the layer? Well, check this out. I'm going to deselect, Controller Command D on my keyboard. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my cursor over top of the layer thumbnail. I'm going to hold down either Control on the Windows side or Command here on the Mac. Notice my cursor changes here. I get a little box with some marching ants there beside my cursor. I'm going to click on the layer thumbnail, and that loads the content of the layer into my image as a selection. Pretty cool stuff. Here's a better example. How about the statue itself? Maybe for whatever reason I want to go and select this guy. I'm going to hold down Controller Command, and what I'll do is I'll single click on the statue layer thumbnail. That loads in that layer as a selection. Super fast way to create selections here. What if, here's something else that just came to mind, what if I wanted to simultaneously select the statue and the pixels on another layer, the stripe layer? What I'm going to do is I'm still holding down Controller Command, bringing my cursor over top of the stripe layer thumbnail. I'm going to throw in Shift as well. And notice beside my cursor, I get a tiny little plus sign now. Single click, and that loads in another layer as a selection as well. So now I have 2 layer selections happening here. Pretty cool stuff. In any regard, there you go. Just some neat things that we can do here. Okay, go ahead and deselect Controller Command D. I wanted to mention that, again, if you're ever in a situation where you need to make some quick selections here. Now, as far as actually selecting your layers, I want to bounce this off of you as well. Sometimes we'll be in a situation where we want to select more than one layer at a time. Maybe you have a group of layers that you want to delete, or a group of layers that you want to organize into a layer group, something that we'll talk about in just a little while. Well, I can hold down Control or Command and click on multiple layers to select more than one layer at a time, perhaps something like this. Okay? You can certainly do that, or you could also use Shift if you have a continuous group of layers that you want to select. This is really great when you have a huge number of layers inside your images, so you can certainly do that as well. Here's something else. What if I wanted to take 2 layers? I'm going to use statue and stripe. What if I wanted to connect them together? Well, what I could do is I've got them both selected here, right? So I used Control or Command and I grabbed both layers. I could head to the Layers panel menu, and what I could do is I could choose Merge Layers. Now, what that means is it's going to take the pixels on both layers and compress them down into one single layer. Okay, kind of like flattening the 2 layers together. Okay, once they're merged together, by the way, there's really no easy way to separate them apart again. So there's an editability issue here. And I know that I can have tons and tons of layers inside my Photoshop images, so I don't usually merge my layers, but I wanted to mention this to you. But sometimes I may link my layers. Check this out. I'm going to go link layers. So in other words, I had multiple layers selected, then I went to the Layers panel menu and I chose linked layers. Now I have link icons appearing on each of these layers, meaning that whatever happens to one of the layers will simultaneously happen to the other layer as well. So this could definitely be useful for you. Moving them around, even things like using your free transform. If I transform one of the layers, both of the layers are going to get transformed. Okay, so there you go, some neat stuff there. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go and reselect my 2 layers there, back to the Layers panel menu, and I'm going to say Unlink Layers, and that takes me back to where you and I started. Okay, so there we go. Oh, last but not least, one more thing that I want to show you. If you ever want to delete a layer, I mentioned this earlier on, you would select the layer and then just use the trash can icon down at the bottom of the Layers panel, something like this. You can go and delete your layers if you want. Now, oftentimes you'll see this when you're working along inside Photoshop. Photoshop will say, hey, hold on, are you really sure you want to do this? And I say yes, and then the next time I go to do it, I say yes again, and then the third time, yes again. Oftentimes I'll just say, look, stop bugging me and just go and delete the layer in this case. All right? Anyway, I'm going to cancel this out. I'm just going to say no. But in any regard, there you go. There's a smattering of various techniques for working with multiple layers, creating your layers, deleting your layers, selections related to your layers, and so on.